I first noticed her on an evening that seemed unremarkable, the kind of night when the city hums quietly and the world feels content to move without you. She walked into the cafe where I sat, tucked away in a corner with my notebook. There was nothing particularly special about her entrance, no dramatic pause, no cinematic flair. But for me, it was like the air shifted, like the scent of smoke before a fire. Her hair fell in loose waves over her shoulders, dark with a sheen that caught the light. She wasn't just beautiful, she was magnetic, carrying an aura that made it impossible not to stare. When she glanced in my direction, her eyes caught mine for a second too long, and I felt something stir inside me, a pull I couldn't name yet. She ordered a coffee and lingered at the counter, her fingers tapping the wood absent-mindedly. I couldn't stop watching her hands, the way they moved, graceful but strong. When she finally turned to look for a seat, her gaze swept over the room and landed on me. And instead of looking away, she smiled. It wasn't the polite kind of smile strangers exchange. It was slow, deliberate, a smile that burned at the edges and sent heat crawling over my skin. She walked toward me, her boots clicking softly on the floor. My heart thudded louder with each step. "Is this seat taken?" she asked, her voice low, smoky, like she already knew the effect she was having on me. I shook my head, unable to find words. She sat across from me, leaning back with a confidence I envied. "I'm Arya," she said. Her name rolled through me like a secret I wanted to whisper again and again. "I'm Elena," I managed. "Nice to meet you, Elena." Her lips curved again, and I felt that smile burn right through me. It wasn't love at first sight. No, it was something more dangerous. It was the first flicker of fire. The beginning of something that promised to burn slowly, deliciously, until nothing was left but ashes. Arya had a way of making silence feel full, as if even the pauses between our words carried meaning. We talked about trivial things at first, how she preferred her coffee black, how I always ordered mine too sweet. But underneath the small talk, there was an unspoken tension, a current humming between us that neither of us dared to name yet. Every time she leaned forward, I caught the faint scent of her perfume, warm, earthy, with something floral buried underneath. It clung to me, made my skin feel alive. Her fingers brushed the rim of her cup, and I imagined them brushing mine. My thoughts betrayed me, growing hungrier with every glance she gave me. "So, Elena," she said, her voice wrapping around my name like velvet. "Do you always sit alone here, scribbling in your notebook? Or were you waiting for someone to walk in?" Her eyes lingered on mine, sharp and playful. I swallowed, trying to steady myself. "Maybe I was waiting for you," I said before I could stop myself. She laughed softly, a sound that seemed to curl inside my chest and warm me from the inside. "Careful," she murmured, leaning in just enough for her hand to graze mine on the table. The touch was accidental, at least it could have been. But the heat that shot up my arm told me it wasn't simple at all. The cafe seemed to fade around us, the clinking of cups, the murmur of conversations, the soft jazz from the speakers. All I could focus on was her hand resting close enough that if I shifted my fingers an inch, they would meet. And I did. Slowly. Boldly. Our fingers brushed, and instead of pulling away, she turned her palm upward, inviting me in. My hand slid into hers like it had always belonged there. Her skin was soft but warm, and the quiet strength in her grip made my pulse quicken. "You're braver than you look," she whispered, her lips curving into that slow, dangerous smile again. "Maybe you just bring it out in me," I replied, my voice lower than I intended. She squeezed my hand once, as if sealing a pact neither of us had spoken aloud. For a moment, it felt like we were teetering on the edge of something thrilling, something forbidden. I could see it in her eyes, the way they darkened when she looked at me, the way her lips parted as if she was on the verge of saying, or doing, something reckless. But she only leaned back, releasing my hand slowly, like letting go of a flame before it burned too hot. "This is going to be interesting," Arya said, her voice soft, but heavy with promise. And I knew she was right. The cafe became our meeting ground. Every evening for the next week, I found myself slipping into the same corner booth, pretending to read, pretending to write, always waiting for her. And she always came. Sometimes, she was already there when I arrived, sipping her coffee as if she had claimed the spot, claimed the time, claimed me. Other nights, she would stroll in after me, catching my gaze before she even reached the counter. No matter the timing, it always felt deliberate, as if she knew I would come and she wanted to make me wait, to want her just a little bit more. Our conversations stretched longer each time. We talked about music, art, and the little details of our lives. But beneath it all, that same dangerous pull hummed between us. It was in the way she leaned close when she spoke, her breath brushing my cheek. It was in the way her eyes lingered on my lips when I smiled, like she was memorizing the curve. One night, as the cafe emptied and the staff began stacking chairs, Arya reached across the table and tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. The touch was small, tender, but it sent a shiver down my spine. "You look beautiful when you're pretending to be shy," she whispered. "I'm not pretending," I confessed, my voice trembling. Her fingers lingered just a moment longer against my cheek, tracing the line of my jaw. I wanted her touch to stay, to burn into me, to brand me as hers. But then she pulled back with that same teasing restraint, as if she enjoyed holding the flame just out of reach. When we finally stepped outside, the night air was cool, the streets nearly empty. I walked beside her, close enough that our shoulders brushed. Every touch felt deliberate, every step heavy with anticipation. At the corner where our paths should have split, she stopped. "Walk me a little further," she asked. Her tone was casual, but her eyes betrayed something deeper, something she wasn't ready to say aloud. I nodded, and we continued, our steps slower now. The silence between us was charged, humming louder than words could. She slipped her hand into mine, and this time, she didn't let go. We stopped beneath a street lamp, the yellow light spilling over her face, softening her features. She looked at me as though I was something she had wanted for a long time, but hadn't dared to reach for. "Elena," she said quietly, almost reverently. My name on her lips made my chest ache. And then she leaned in, close enough that I could feel the warmth of her breath on my mouth. But instead of kissing me, she brushed her lips against my cheek, lingering there, letting the ghost of her touch ignite something deeper. When she pulled away, her smile was slow, wicked. "Not yet," she whispered. And with those two words, she left me burning. The "not yet" haunted me. It curled around my thoughts during the day, lingered in my chest at night. Every time I replayed that moment under the street lamp, the warmth of her lips brushing my cheek, the promise hiding in her smile, I felt myself aching for what she had withheld. The next evening, when she didn't show up at the cafe right away, I felt restless. I tapped my pen against the page of my notebook, unable to focus. Every time the door opened, I looked up, my heart skipping, only to sink again when it wasn't her. And then, at last, she walked in. Her eyes found mine instantly, and the corners of her lips lifted in that slow, knowing smile. She was dressed in black tonight fitted jeans, a leather jacket that seemed to carry the night itself. She didn't just walk, she owned every step. "You look like you've been waiting for me," Arya teased as she slid into the seat across from me. I admitted. Her brows lifted slightly at my honesty, and her smile deepened. "Good." The air between us grew heavier with every glance, every stolen touch of her hand brushing mine. It was as if we were circling something inevitable, pulling tighter and tighter with every moment. When the cafe closed, she didn't ask me to walk her home this time. She simply took my hand and guided me outside. The streets glistened with the remnants of rain, the air cool and damp, but her presence beside me was all the warmth I needed. We walked in silence until she suddenly stopped beneath the same street lamp as the night before. My breath caught in my throat as she turned toward me, her eyes glinting with mischief and hunger. "Last night," she murmured, stepping closer, "I told you not yet." Her hand rose, brushing against my cheek, tracing down to my jaw. My skin tingled beneath her touch. "Tonight," she whispered, her lips hovering just above mine, "I think I've made you wait long enough." Before I could reply, she closed the space between us. Her lips pressed against mine, soft at first, testing, tasting. My breath hitched, and then I leaned into her, letting the kiss deepen, letting the fire we had been circling finally ignite. Her mouth moved against mine with a hunger that matched my own, slow but insistent, as if savoring every second of the release. Her hand slid to the back of my neck, pulling me closer, while my fingers clutched her jacket like it was the only thing keeping me grounded. The world blurred around us, the city, the night. Everything disappeared until there was only her warmth, her taste, her fire. When she finally pulled back, her lips were still grazing mine, her breath unsteady. "See," she whispered, her voice husky. "Worth the wait." And I knew I was already lost. After that first kiss, everything changed. The next time we met, the tension was no longer hidden beneath casual smiles or playful words. It was alive, pulsing in every glance, every brush of her hand against mine. We didn't linger long at the cafe that night. Arya barely touched her coffee, her eyes fixed on me as if the drink was irrelevant, as if she had already decided what she wanted more. "Come with me," she said simply, standing and holding out her hand. I hesitated only a heartbeat before sliding my fingers into hers. She led me through the quiet streets, her stride purposeful, mine quickening to keep up. We reached her apartment, a loft tucked away above a row of shops, dim light spilling from the window. Inside, it smelled faintly of sandalwood and wine. The space was warm and inviting, filled with art books and scattered canvases. But I barely noticed. All I could see was her, standing so close the air between us felt heavy with unspoken need. She slipped off her jacket, revealing the curve of her shoulders, the strength beneath her softness. My eyes followed the movement, hungry, unashamed. "You keep staring," she teased, her voice low, sultry. "Maybe I can't help it," I admitted. Her smile deepened, slow and wicked. "Good." She stepped closer, so close that I felt the heat radiating from her body. Her fingers brushed mine, then slid upward, tracing the length of my arm until they cupped the side of my neck. She tilted my chin just enough to make me look into her eyes. "Do you want this?" she asked, her voice softer now, laced with sincerity beneath the seduction. "Yes," I breathed, the words slipping out before I could think. Her lips found mine again, this time with no hesitation. The kiss was deeper, hungrier, a claiming and a surrender all at once. I melted against her, my hands tangling in her hair, pulling her closer until there was no space left between us. She guided me backward slowly, her movements deliberate, savoring every step until my back brushed against the edge of her couch. She pressed me down gently, her body following mine, her weight comforting and electrifying all at once. Her hands explored me as if memorizing every curve, every shiver, every gasp she drew from me. And I touched her back, her shoulders, sliding down the planes of her body, needing to know her through the tips of my fingers. The world outside no longer existed. It was just her breath against my ear, her hands igniting trails of fire along my skin, the steady rhythm of our hearts sinking in the quiet night. And in that moment, I realized it wasn't just lust or longing. It was something deeper, something consuming. I wasn't just falling for her, I was burning slowly, helplessly, for her. The couch became our world that night. Her weight pressed into me, grounding me while also setting me free. Every kiss grew deeper, more urgent, yet never rushed, like she wanted me to feel every second of it, every spark that leapt between us. Her lips trailed down my jaw, brushing the sensitive skin of my neck. I gasped softly, arching beneath her touch, my fingers tightening in her hair. She smiled against my skin, the curve of her mouth warm and maddening. "You taste like you were made for me," she murmured, her voice sending shivers down my spine. My reply was lost in the rush of sensation as her hands began to explore with bolder intent. She moved slowly, deliberately, mapping my body as though she wanted to memorize every place that made me tremble, every place that made me melt. Her touch was both a question and an answer, gentle, then teasing, then firm, coaxing me to open, to give in. I touched her back with hungry hands, sliding under her shirt to feel the warmth of her skin. The strength of her muscles contrasted with the softness of her curves, and it made me ache for her even more. She sighed against my neck when I pulled her closer, her body pressing harder into mine, as though she couldn't get enough. Our breaths tangled, uneven and quick, filling the room with a rhythm as intimate as any words we could have spoken. The more she touched me, the more I needed her. My body responded without thought, arching, shivering, burning. Elena, she whispered my name like a prayer, her lips brushing my ear. Tell me what you want. My answer came out in a rush, breathless, but certain. You. Just you. Something shifted in her eyes then, a hunger mingled with tenderness. She kissed me again, slower this time, as if to remind me that desire didn't have to be frantic, it could be savored, drawn out like the slow burn of a candle melting into the night. Piece by piece, the walls between us fell. Our clothes became obstacles, tossed aside in moments of heat, leaving nothing but skin against skin. The first full press of her body against mine stole the breath from my lungs. She was warmth, softness, strength, and temptation all at once. Her hands roamed me as though discovering a secret she had always suspected but never confirmed. And when her lips trailed lower, I let go of everything fear, hesitation, thought. All that existed was her mouth, her hands, her body igniting mine. The fire we had been circling finally consumed us, slow and steady, yet powerful enough to unravel me completely. And as I cried out her name, I realized there was no turning back. I wasn't just burning for her, I was hers entirely. The fire between us burned long into the night. Time disappeared. There was only the rhythm of our breathing, the shivers of our skin against each other, the low murmurs of pleasure that filled her apartment like music. Every touch felt endless, every kiss an eternity folded into a single moment. And when at last the heat softened, when our bodies sank into each other in the quiet aftermath, I found myself staring at the ceiling, my chest still heaving, my skin damp with sweat. Arya lay beside me, one arm draped lazily across my stomach, her face buried in the curve of my neck. Her breath tickled, steady now, but I could still feel the wildness that had lived in her only minutes before. The silence wasn't empty. It was full of all the things we didn't have to say because we had already spoken them through our bodies. I turned my head to look at her, to study the way the faint city light painted her features, softening the sharpness of her jaw, illuminating the strands of her dark hair scattered across her cheek. She opened her eyes slowly, as though she had felt my gaze. A small, tired smile curved her lips. "What are you staring at?" she whispered, her voice husky, worn from the intensity of our night. "You," I confessed. Her smile deepened. She shifted, rolling halfway onto me, her hair spilling over my chest. Her fingers traced idle patterns across my skin, sending little sparks even in the calm of afterglow. "Careful," she murmured. "You look at me like that, and I'll never let you go." The words sank deep, heavier than they sounded. She said them playfully, but her eyes held something raw, something vulnerable. And it terrified me because I realized I wanted her never to let me go. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The only sounds were the faint hum of the city outside and the steady beating of my heart, a rhythm she seemed to match with the lazy circles of her fingers. Then she lifted her head, her lips brushing mine in the softest kiss of the night. Not hungry, not desperate, just tender. A seal. A promise. "Elena," she whispered against my mouth, "you make me feel." She trailed off, biting her lip as though afraid of the words that hovered there. I cupped her face, urging her eyes back to mine. "What?" I asked gently. Her throat worked as she swallowed. "Like I'm not broken. Like I can trust this. Trust you." The honesty in her voice pierced me more deeply than any touch. I felt my own chest tighten, emotions swelling up where before there had only been desire. I pulled her closer, wrapping my arms around her, holding her like something precious. "You can," I whispered. "You can trust me." She relaxed against me then, her body melting into mine. And in that fragile moment, I realized the truth I had been avoiding. This wasn't just passion, wasn't just lust, wasn't even just desire. It was something bigger, something that terrified me because of how much it mattered. I was falling in love with her. The thought should have scared me, but it didn't. Not with her body pressed against mine, not with her breath mingling with mine, not with the fire we had kindled still glowing softly in the ashes of our first night together. Hours slipped away as we lay there tangled, drifting between murmured conversations and quiet kisses. She told me about her art, about how she painted when she couldn't sleep, about how colors sometimes spoke to her more honestly than people. I told her about my writing, about the way words haunted me until I put them down on paper. We shared secrets, fears, little pieces of ourselves that felt fragile in the dark, but somehow safe in each other's arms. By the time dawn began to creep through the blinds, I felt changed. Not just because I had touched her, kissed her, known her body in ways that left me trembling, but because she had let me in. She had given me a piece of herself that went deeper than flesh. She stirred as the first rays of light spilled across us, her eyes fluttering open. She blinked at me, sleepy but smiling, her hand tightening at my waist as though to keep me from slipping away. "Morning," I whispered, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Morning," she echoed, her voice thick with drowsy warmth. She studied me for a moment, then leaned in to kiss me softly, sweetly, like it was the most natural way to greet the day. And in that kiss, I felt it again, the fire, yes, but also the tenderness beneath it. A flame that didn't just consume, but also warmed, lit, and guided. I realized then that burning slowly for her wasn't something I could stop, even if I wanted to. She had lit something inside me that night, something that would keep glowing, keep smoldering, keep pulling me back to her. And as she laid her head on my chest and drifted back into sleep, I held her tightly, letting the rhythm of her breath anchor me. I knew it was only the beginning. The fire had started, and it wasn't going out. Not now. Not ever.